Wouldn't it be great if before we made some big commitment, some big decision, before we hire that next person, before we dive 100% into our business, before we choose to get engaged, before we choose to separate or even divorce, before we choose to make some investment, wouldn't it be great if we just knew that we were doing the right thing, that we could see how it was going to play out, like we could read the tea leaves? That would be great, wouldn't it? If we could just have that confidence or wisdom or vision or insight to know that we were doing the right thing because we could see how it was all going to play out. And based on that, the choices would be much clearer. So it's like we want to have the confidence in our decision making. We want to have confidence in our choices. But it's very often not the case when we have to make some decision, make some commitment, make some change. It's very often not the case that we know how it's going to play out. Sorry for that little jingle there. How it's going to play out in the end. And so I want to talk about the importance of trust. Trust is, in some ways, in many ways, way more powerful than confidence. Because even though with lots and lots of experience, we do gain more confidence. So in fact, the more you do a thing, the more confident you become in your ability to do that thing. So that does seem to be the case, right? That confidence comes at the end, not at the beginning. Confidence comes from action. So no matter how much confidence we get in a thing, how much confidence we have in knowing how to make the right hire or choose the right investment, no one bats 1,000, no one. Nobody always reads the tea leaves exactly right. No one has a real crystal ball. So confidence, although powerful, is also always somewhat limited. But trust is even more powerful than confidence. Because trust puts you in a relationship with something greater than yourself or greater than your mind. That confidence does not. So I'm not knocking confidence. I'm not saying confidence doesn't have an important role to play and that, you shouldn't have your attention on building confidence. Confidence is great, as I said. But there is something greater than confidence, and that is trust. Because trust is, let's call it, a surrendering of control and a belief that whatever comes your way, whatever outcome comes your way, it's going to be the outcome that you need for the unfolding of your journey exactly the way you ultimately desire it. So does that mean you'll be happy with every outcome? Does that mean you won't experience regret in some cases about choices you made or the way things went? No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that at all. You might. In fact, you need to in some ways. Because it's in those really difficult experiences, sadness, the experience of loss, maybe even having your confidence shaken or second guessing. Those are the experiences that open your heart, open your vessel even greater. I don't know anyone who's accomplished anything of consequence in the domain of impact, in the domain of self-discovery, who hasn't gone through some really difficult experiences, who hasn't had successes and failures, who hasn't had love and, anger, resentment, and all those experiences. So if we try to guide our lives based solely on avoiding experiences that we think we're not going to want or like or be able to deal with, well, then we can never become who we truly are. And I mean, look, I know this, and I do my best to live this, but gosh, I try to control the outcomes a lot of times. I try to figure out how to avoid the outcomes I don't want to have, so I'm not some kind of like realized, I don't know, guru or master or something, but I've seen this enough, I've experienced this enough, I've tasted this enough that I know it to be powerful and true. So maybe instead of waiting for confidence, lean in on trust. Trust in what? Trust that what you desire, what you feel attracted to, what is showing itself to you, acting on that, and trusting your ability to then deal with whatever comes your way as a consequence of that choice, that decision, that commitment, that investment, whether it's what you put in the win column or the loss column. You, in relationship with the universe, in relationship with God, in relationship with whatever you see as bigger than yourself. Maybe you see it as your destiny, maybe you see it as your purpose, maybe you see it as, your dharma. You in relationship with that will always find your way back home. Home to what? Home to the truth of your infinite existence. You can't not find your way there if that is truly what you're seeking. So you can trust that. And that is more powerful than confidence. The confidence will come with action, but the trust is an ongoing surrender of the need to control the outcome. And that puts you in the right relationship with yourself, in the right relationship with whatever you believe in that is greater than yourself, that has a greater intelligence than what fits inside the limits of our awareness. So I'm inviting us all to lean in on trust. Lean all the way in on trust. Find your way home. Have a great day.